Analyzing the impact of Fujian's deployment on global trade routes, expected disruptions in shipping and logistics by mid-2025. Introduction. As we look toward mid-2025, the global shipping and logistics landscape is poised for significant transformation due to various geopolitical and economic factors, particularly the anticipated deployment from Fujian. This report synthesizes insights from industry experts, notably C.H. Robinson and Avrit, to explore the expected disruptions in shipping routes and logistics, highlighting key events, challenges, and strategic responses necessary for shippers to navigate this evolving environment. Key challenges in 2025. 1. Chinese New Year CNY, January 29, 2025. The CNY marks a critical period in the Asian manufacturing calendar during which factories across China shut down for extended periods. The lead-up to this holiday sees a surge in freight demand as businesses rush to stock inventory, leading to increased shipping costs and port congestion. Following the holiday, a backlog of shipments often occurs as production ramps back up, further complicating logistics operations. 2. Labor strikes. Ongoing contract negotiations between the International Longshoremen's Association (ILA) and the U.S. Maritime Alliance (USMX) pose a significant risk of labor strikes. With a potential strike date around January 15, 2025, shippers face the prospect of significant delays and increased costs due to disrupted port operations. The rise in labor strikes globally has already strained supply chains, and continued unrest is expected. 3. Tariff changes. Tariffs, particularly the EU's 35.5% tariff on electric vehicles from China, are expected to alter trade patterns significantly. The potential for new tariffs under the incoming U.S. administration adds another layer of complexity, compelling shippers to stockpile inventory and rethink sourcing strategies. The volatility introduced by these tariffs can disrupt established supply chains and inflate freight costs. 4. Geopolitical events. The war in Ukraine and rising tensions in the Middle East are contributing to ongoing disruptions in airspace and shipping routes. These conflicts affect shipping costs and schedules, further complicating logistics for international shippers. Common themes and strategic responses. Diversification of supply chains. A recurring theme among industry experts is the importance of diversifying supply chains to enhance resilience. Shippers are increasingly moving away from a reliance on China, opting instead for sourcing from Southeast Asia, Mexico, and Canada. This shift is evidenced by an 8% decline in Chinese imports to the U.S. from 2017 to 2023 as businesses seek to optimize their supply chains and mitigate risks associated with geopolitical uncertainties. E-commerce dynamics. The boom in e-commerce continues to reshape freight dynamics, with air freight capacity being redirected to accommodate increasing demand from Asia. This shift has resulted in heightened rates and reduced capacity for other shipping lanes, necessitating a re-evaluation of logistics strategies to ensure timely deliveries and cost management. Front-loading strategies. In anticipation of disruption, shippers are adopting front-loading strategies, shifting freight from ocean to air to avoid delays. This proactive measure is becoming a common practice across industries, allowing businesses to mitigate risks associated with potential strikes or tariff changes. Differences in perspectives. While C.H. Robinson emphasizes the interconnectedness of supply chain risks and the need for agility, Avrit focuses on specific mitigation strategies for seasonal disruptions and tariff-related risks. C.H. Robinson provides a broader context regarding geopolitical impacts and the evolution of ocean carrier strategies, while Avrit offers actionable steps for businesses to prepare for the CNY and tariff uncertainties. Conclusion. As we approach mid-2025, the shipping and logistics landscape will be shaped by significant disruptions stemming from the deployment from Fujian and other geopolitical factors. To maintain operational continuity, shippers must prepare for the challenges presented by the CNY, potential labor strikes, and tariff changes. By integrating diversified supply chains, proactive planning and strategic partnerships, businesses can mitigate risks and adapt to the rapidly changing global trade environment. Understanding these dynamics will empower companies to anticipate challenges and seize opportunities. Ensuring robust supply chains in the face of adversity. Key recommendations for shippers. 1. Proactive planning. Place orders early and build inventory buffers to navigate the CNY disruptions effectively. 2. Diversify supply sources. Explore alternative sourcing options to reduce reliance on high tariff markets and enhance supply chain resilience. 3. Secure freight space. Pre-book container and air freight space to avoid delays, especially during peak shipping periods. 4. Monitor geopolitical developments. Stay informed about global events that could impact shipping routes and costs, adjusting strategies as needed. 5. Engage logistics partners. Collaborate closely with logistics providers to ensure visibility and flexibility in supply chain operations, enabling quick responses to unforeseen disruptions. By adopting these measures, businesses can better navigate the complexities of the global shipping landscape and ensure sustained operational effectiveness in 2025 and beyond. The anticipated disruptions in shipping and logistics by mid-2025, particularly due to Fujian's deployment and other geopolitical factors, reveal several counterintuitive aspects that challenge conventional wisdom in global trade and supply chain management. Here are some key counterintuitive insights. 1. Increased complexity from simplification. It is often assumed that streamlining supply chains by reducing the number of suppliers or shipping routes will lead to greater efficiency. However, the insights indicate a growing necessity for diversification in supply chains to enhance resilience. Shippers are moving away from a heavy reliance on China, even though it might seem simpler to focus on fewer sources. This shift towards Southeast Asia and other regions, despite the initial complexity, is a strategic maneuver to safeguard against disruptions. 2. E-commerce demand. Straining air capacity. The booming e-commerce sector is commonly associated with increased logistics efficiency and faster delivery times. However, the redirection of air cargo capacity to accommodate e-commerce shipments has paradoxically led to decreased capacity for other critical lanes, resulting in higher rates and reduced availability. This counters the expectation that increased e-commerce would uniformly benefit all shipping routes. 3. Proactive stockpiling as a risk mitigation strategy. Traditionally, businesses have been encouraged to minimize inventory to reduce holding costs. Yet, in light of potential tariff hikes and disruptions like Chinese New Year, shippers are now advised to build inventory buffers and engage in front-loading strategies. This shift underscores a counterintuitive approach where holding more inventory, typically seen as a liability, becomes a strategic asset to navigate uncertainties. For labor strikes and their ripple effects. While labor strikes are typically viewed as isolated events that disrupt operations temporarily, the insights suggest that their impact can be more widespread and long-lasting, leading to cascading delays throughout the supply chain. This challenges the notion that such disruptions can be easily managed or quickly resolved, highlighting the need for more robust contingency plans. 5. Geopolitical risks as a constant. The expectation might be that geopolitical risks would stabilize once conflicts de-escalate. However, the ongoing global tensions, particularly in regions like Ukraine and the Middle East, continue to complicate airspace and shipping routes. This indicates that geopolitical instability is a long-term consideration rather than a temporary hurdle, forcing shippers to adapt continuously to shifting landscapes. 6. Front-loading freight in anticipation of delays. Historically, front-loading freight was primarily used as a reactive measure to immediate disruptions. The growing trend of anticipatory front-loading, shifting freight from ocean to air to avoid potential delays, demonstrates a proactive approach that contradicts the typical reactive mindset of logistics management. This anticipatory strategy highlights the necessity of adaptability in modern supply chain practices. 7. tariff changes drive unexpected supply chain realignments. While it is intuitive to expect that new tariffs would simply increase costs, the responses from shippers indicate that such changes are prompting significant shifts in supply chain strategies, including sourcing from alternative countries. This counterintuitive reaction illustrates how tariffs can catalyze innovation and restructuring within supply chains rather than merely being a cost burden. 8. The Chinese New Year is a year-round concern. Many companies may view the disruptions caused by the Chinese New Year as a seasonal issue. However, the need for proactive planning months in advance, including placing orders early and building safety stocks, showcases that this holiday's impact extends well beyond its immediate timeframe. This challenges the notion that seasonal disruptions only require short-term adjustments. 9. Interconnectedness of supply chain risks. The assumption that supply chain risks can be isolated or compartmentalized is increasingly challenged. The insights reveal that disruptions in one area, such as a port strike, can have cascading effects on other logistics components like trucking and rail. This interconnectedness emphasizes the need for a holistic view of supply chain management where risks are assessed using a comprehensive framework rather than in silos. 10. The importance of flexible strategies. Many companies tend to favor rigid logistics strategies that lock in certain routes or suppliers. However, the current landscape necessitates flexibility and the ability to pivot quickly in response to changing conditions. Shippers are encouraged to adopt a more dynamic approach, casting aside traditional methods in favor of adaptive strategies that can respond to real-time market conditions. These counterintuitive insights underscore the evolving nature of global trade and logistics, highlighting the need for businesses to rethink traditional approaches in favor of more resilient, adaptable strategies that can withstand emerging challenges. The report on the anticipated disruptions in global shipping and logistics by mid-2025 highlights several critical areas that many may overlook, which could have far-reaching implications for international trade. Here are the significant points that warrant deeper consideration. 1. Geopolitical factors and their ripple effects. While the report addresses geopolitical events such as the war in Ukraine and tensions in the Middle East, the significance of these events extends beyond immediate shipping costs or delays. Geopolitical stability is crucial for maintaining predictable trade routes and supply chains. Disruptions in one region can lead to cascading effects globally as shippers scramble to find alternative routes, often resulting in increased costs and delays. Why it matters. Many businesses may underestimate the interconnectedness of global trade and the potential for geopolitical events to disrupt their supply chains. For instance, a minor conflict can lead to airspace restrictions or rerouting, which may not only increase transportation costs but also complicate logistics planning for businesses reliant on just-in-time inventory systems. 2. Chinese New Year disruptions. The report emphasizes the impact of the Chinese New Year CNY on production and shipping. However, it is essential to recognize that the effects of CNY are not limited to immediate shipping delays. The holiday often results in a significant backlog that can take weeks to resolve. Many companies fail to account for the cumulative impact of CNY, leading to severe inventory shortages and lost sales in subsequent months. Why it matters. Overlooking the prolonged effects of CNY can lead to poor inventory management and sales forecasting, resulting in substantial financial losses. Companies should plan not just for the holiday itself but for the recovery period that follows, ensuring they have adequate stock to meet post-holiday demand. 3. Labor strikes as a systemic risk. The potential for labor strikes, particularly in crucial ports, is highlighted in the report, but the systemic implications of such strikes are often underestimated. A labor action can halt operations at major ports, leading to widespread delays and increased freight costs across multiple sectors. The report mentions a 280% year-over-year increase in labor strikes, indicating a trend that could become a regular occurrence rather than an isolated incident. Why it matters. Businesses that do not prepare contingency plans for labor disruptions may find themselves facing bottlenecks that can halt production entirely. The interconnected nature of supply chains means that a strike in one location can have ripple effects throughout the supply chain, emphasizing the need for robust risk management strategies. 4. Tariff changes and economic policy shifts. The report outlines the potential for new tariffs, particularly from the EU and the US, as significant challenges for shippers. However, the broader implications of these tariffs on global trade patterns and sourcing strategies are often overlooked. Changes in tariff policies can lead to a rapid reassessment of supply chain strategies, forcing companies to consider nearshoring or diversifying their supplier base. Why it matters: the ability to adapt to shifting economic policies is critical for maintaining competitiveness. Companies that wait until tariffs are implemented to adjust their strategies may face substantial cost increases and supply chain disruptions, highlighting the need for proactive planning and flexibility in sourcing. 5. The e-commerce boom's impact on freight dynamics. The ongoing growth of e-commerce is reshaping the logistics landscape, particularly concerning air freight capacity. The report mentions that air capacity is being redirected to fulfill e-commerce demand from Asia, leading to increased rates and reduced capacity for other routes. This shift can create competition for limited air freight capacity, disadvantaging traditional shippers who may not have adapted to the e-commerce surge. Why it matters: businesses that rely on traditional shipping methods may find themselves at a disadvantage if they do not account for the growing influence of e-commerce on logistics. Understanding these dynamics is crucial for developing effective shipping strategies that can accommodate both e-commerce and traditional freight demands. 6. Diversification of supply chains. The shift towards diversifying supply chains is emphasized particularly in light of the lessons learned from the pandemic. However, the report could delve deeper into the complexities and challenges associated with diversifying supply chains. While many companies are moving away from reliance on China, the transition to new suppliers in regions like Southeast Asia or Latin America can introduce risks related to capacity, quality, and reliability. Why it matters: businesses that fail to conduct thorough due diligence when diversifying supply chains may encounter unexpected challenges that could disrupt operations. Understanding the nuances of new markets is essential for effective risk management and ensuring supply chain resilience. 7. The importance of proactive planning. Finally, the report emphasizes the necessity of proactive planning in navigating these disruptions. Many businesses may overlook the importance of establishing robust contingency plans that incorporate flexibility in logistics, inventory management, and supplier relationships. Why it matters: companies that adopt a reactive approach to supply chain disruptions may find themselves scrambling to catch up, often at a higher cost. Proactive planning not only mitigates risks but also positions businesses to capitalize on opportunities that arise from disruptions, such as shifts in consumer behavior or market dynamics. Conclusion: the anticipated disruptions in global shipping and logistics by mid-2025 present a complex landscape that requires businesses to adopt a comprehensive approach to risk management. By recognizing the often overlooked factors that can significantly impact supply chains, companies can better prepare for the challenges ahead. Emphasizing proactive planning, flexibility, and adaptability in supply chain strategies will be vital for maintaining operational continuity in an increasingly interconnected and volatile global trade environment. 1. Anticipated disruptions from Chinese New Year CNY. The impact of CNY on global trade routes is significant due to the shutdown of factories across China, which typically halts production for weeks. This leads to a surge in freight demand before the holiday and substantial backlogs afterward. Shippers must prepare by placing orders early, building inventory buffers, and securing freight space in advance to navigate these challenges effectively. 2. Labor strikes and contract negotiations. The unresolved contract negotiations between the International Longshoremen's Association (ILA) and the U.S. Maritime Alliance (USMX) pose a serious risk of labor strikes that could disrupt operations at major ports. With a rise in labor strikes globally, shippers need to develop contingency plans and explore alternative shipping routes to mitigate potential delays and cost increases. 3. Tariff changes and trade policy shifts. The introduction of new tariffs such as the EU's 35.5% tariff on Chinese electric vehicles is expected to have far-reaching effects on trade patterns and shipping costs. Shippers are likely to stockpile inventory and adjust sourcing strategies to adapt to these changes. Understanding the implications of tariffs on supply chains will be crucial for businesses aiming to maintain competitiveness. 4. Diversification of supply chains to enhance resilience and agility. Shippers are increasingly diversifying their supply chains away from a heavy reliance on China. This includes shifting sourcing to Southeast Asia, Mexico, and Canada. The trend of front-loading shipments, particularly during periods of uncertainty, is also gaining traction as businesses adapt to a volatile shipping environment. Embracing diversification strategies across modes and regions will be essential for navigating the complexities of global trade by mid-2025. Here are 3 famous historical cases similar to the content discussing the impact of Fujian's deployment on global trade routes and anticipated disruptions in shipping and logistics. 1. Suez Canal Crisis 1956. The Suez Canal has been a critical trade route since its opening in 1869. However, during the Suez Crisis in 1956, tensions escalated when Egypt nationalized the canal, which had previously been controlled by British and French interests. This led to a military intervention by Israel, the UK, and France. The canal was closed for several months, significantly disrupting global trade, particularly oil shipments. The crisis highlighted the vulnerabilities in shipping routes and led to a re-evaluation of global supply chains as countries sought alternatives to ensure the flow of goods. This event demonstrated how geopolitical events could have immediate and far-reaching consequences for global trade routes and logistics. 2. The Great Depression and Trade Tariffs 1930s. The Great Depression had a profound impact on global trade, particularly through the implementation of the Smoot-Hawley Tariff Act in the United States in 1930. This act raised tariffs on numerous imported goods, leading to retaliatory tariffs from other countries. The result was a severe contraction in international trade, causing shipping rates to spike and supply chains to become severely disrupted. The economic fallout forced many countries to reconsider their trade policies and reliance on imports, leading to a shift toward more domestic production and self-sufficiency. This period serves as a historical example of how trade policy and economic conditions can disrupt logistical frameworks and global supply chains. 3. The COVID-19 Pandemic 2020. The COVID-19 pandemic had a massive impact on global supply chains, analogous to anticipated disruptions from Fujian's deployment. When countries began imposing lockdowns, factories shut down and shipping routes were severely affected. The pandemic caused delays in shipping, increased freight rates, and a global shortage of containers. Companies struggled to adapt to rapidly changing conditions, with many forced to diversify their supply chains and consider nearshoring or alternative sourcing strategies. The pandemic underscored the importance of agility and resilience in logistics and highlighted how global events can lead to significant disruptions in trade routes and the flow of goods. Each of these cases illustrates the interplay between geopolitical events, economic policies, and global logistics, similar to the anticipated disruptions resulting from Fujian's deployment. Future outlook: predictions for global trade routes and logistics disruptions by mid-2025. As we approach mid-2025, the global trade landscape is poised to undergo significant transformations, primarily driven by Fujian's deployment and a myriad of geopolitical factors. This analysis highlights anticipated disruptions in shipping and logistics, outlining critical trends and predictions that will shape international supply chains. 1. Chinese New Year CNY disruptions. The upcoming Chinese New Year on January 29, 2025 is expected to create substantial disruptions in global supply chains. Historically, this period witnesses factory shutdowns across China, leading to production halts and surges in freight demand. Proactive measures such as early order placements and inventory buffers will become essential strategies for shippers to mitigate the impacts of CNY, which include increased shipping costs, extended lead times, and post-holiday backlogs. 2. Labor strikes and contract negotiations. The unresolved contract negotiations between the International Longshoremen's Association (ILA) and the U.S. Maritime Alliance (USMX) pose a significant threat to port operations. A potential strike, particularly around January 15, 2025, could severely disrupt shipping timelines, leading to increased costs and widespread delays. Shippers must prepare contingency plans to minimize operational impacts, especially in high-stakes industries like automotive and pharmaceuticals that rely heavily on just-in-time inventories. 3. Tariff uncertainties. The evolving tariff landscape is another critical factor influencing global trade dynamics. The EU's recent introduction of a 35.5% tariff on electric vehicles from China and potential U.S. tariffs under a new administration could lead to significant shifts in trade patterns. This environment may prompt shippers to stockpile inventory and adjust sourcing strategies, further complicating supply chain logistics. Shippers will need to adopt proactive risk management strategies, including diversifying sourcing and leveraging advanced logistics solutions to mitigate tariff impacts. 4. Geopolitical tensions. Ongoing geopolitical conflicts such as the war in Ukraine and rising tensions in the Middle East are expected to disrupt shipping routes and increase freight costs. The closure of airspace over Ukraine and the diversion of shipping routes due to Middle Eastern conflicts will result in longer transit times and increased operational costs. Shippers must remain agile and adaptable, reassessing routes and strategies to navigate these geopolitical challenges effectively. 5. E-commerce boom. The surge in e-commerce is reshaping the logistics landscape, with air capacity increasingly redirected to accommodate demand from Asia. This shift is leading to increased rates and reduced capacity for traditional shipping lanes, particularly affecting smaller volume routes. As e-commerce continues to grow, shippers must integrate flexibility into their logistics strategies, evaluating which freight is urgent and requires air transport to mitigate risks and capitalize on cost savings. 6. Ocean carrier alliances and shipping dynamics. The formation of new ocean carrier alliances is expected to create market disruptions, as these alliances control a significant share of the global container market. For instance, the Gemini cooperation strategy aims to reduce port calls between Asia and North Europe, potentially affecting smaller ports and altering inland freight flows. Shippers must stay informed of these changes to optimize their logistics strategies and maintain operational efficiency. 7. Supply chain diversification and resilience. A key theme emerging from these challenges is the need for supply chain diversification to enhance resilience. Shippers are increasingly moving away from reliance on Chinese manufacturing, seeking alternative sourcing options in Southeast Asia, Mexico, and Canada. This trend, coupled with shifts in shipping modes such as increasing use of air freight, will be vital for maintaining operational continuity in the face of disruptions. Conclusion. By mid-2025, shippers will navigate a complex landscape characterized by various disruptions stemming from Chinese New Year labor strikes, tariff changes, geopolitical tensions, and the booming e-commerce sector. The integration of diversified supply chains, proactive planning, and strategic partnerships will be essential for mitigating risks and adapting to the rapidly changing global trade environment. Understanding these dynamics will empower businesses to anticipate challenges and leverage opportunities, ensuring their supply chains remain robust amid adversity. As the global trade landscape evolves, agility and flexibility in logistics will be paramount for success.